In this video, we discuss how to increase brand awareness. And I'm joined by Corey Perlman, author, keynote speaker, and executive consultant on the topics of social media and digital marketing. Welcome to How to Business. I'm Frederick Weiss. And in this video, we are speaking with Corey Perlman, keynote speaker, author, and executive consultant on the topics of social media and digital marketing. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Fred. It's great to be here. Great to be with your audience, and thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, Corey. Very happy to have you on the show. Speaking about the audience, can you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been in the digital marketing world for over a decade. So that's like in dog years, I feel like 1,000 years old, but been doing it since MySpace, on the social media sites like that. And I'm as you said, a consultant, an agency owner. So we do the digital marketing for other businesses. And I speak around the world on the topics of social media for business to associations, companies, and other folks that will have me on their stage. So it's been a great ride.
Excellent. Thanks for that context, Corey. And I really want to dive more into what you do. But first, let's go into our topic, which is how to increase brand awareness. So first off, how do you, Corey, identify the meaning of brand awareness?
I would say in two different ways. I would say you've got your business brand awareness and then also your personal brand awareness, which I think is important. It really depends on your business and your industry and such, how important one or the other is. As far as your business brand, it's obviously your company profiles. It's when people Google you, if you're a small business, things of that nature, and then how your employees show up on their own social platforms definitely revolves around the business brand. And then from a personal branding standpoint, it's similar, but it's all connected to your personal brand. So your social media profiles, it could be your YouTube channel, it could be, again, when people Google you, different directories, things of that nature. But, it's your digital footprint, as I like to call it. For your brand, it's your brand's digital footprint. And for your personal brand, it's your own digital footprint and how you show up online. And I would just say, Fred, that I help businesses and people try to show up as best as they can. Oftentimes, and this, you'll go into a business or something and you'll see beautiful products or their service is just awesome. And then you show up back online and it's like, that doesn't look like what I just saw. That looks pretty crappy. And so we want to try to figure out a way how to match the two together. So.
Yeah, and I love that you bring the point about how your personal brand can seep into your business brands. Maybe you didn't say that exactly, but if you think about it, what you do and who you are as a professional, as an entrepreneur, etc., that will definitely affect the perception of your business, correct?
Not only is that correct, Fred, but I think it's evolved in that direction over the years. So what I mean by that is 4 or 5 years ago, you could really have a distinct difference between your personal brand and your business brand if you wanted to. You could have a Facebook business and you could have a Facebook persona for your personal profile and kind of keep them separate. But nowadays, gosh, they're so intertwined that, can you do it? Maybe. But it's super hard to do. And I think nowadays people want to see the humans behind the brand. And so if you are willing to include both of them, it allows people to see that overall digital story that includes not only yourself, but other people that support your brand. And that does in itself make up your business brand. So to echo what you said, yes, they are intertwined more so today than ever before.
Yeah, I think people more are leaning towards trusting a person rather than a company. For example, I know IBM used to do a lot of things where they would communicate out how they've been in business for, all these years, blah, blah, blah. You could obviously trust us. But then a different generation came along and they looked at that and they said, wow, these people have been doing this the same way for so many years and they're not pliable to change. They're not willing to change. Maybe I don't trust them as much as maybe someone else who actually has a face to a company. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, and you can actually put some data behind it. If you look at brands social profiles, they pale in comparison numbers wise to brand ambassadors or celebrities
Mm.
or whomever, and it just goes to show you that people want to follow people. It's just the bottom line. And so I think that brands have had to recognize that that's the case. And so instead of working so hard on their brand, they also work on creating brand ambassadors, around their brand, which are essentially people on social media.
Speaking about people on social media, how do we invest in paid media in a way that's authentic to increase our brand awareness?
Good question. I think that I'll take one step back and just say that, the key really is to create authentic content, and so I know you're going to tee this up later, but I'll say it now, steal your thunder. I have a book coming on the subject called Authentically Social, because it's so much what the world is demanding right now. Maybe it's after pandemic, like you said, it's kind of fast forwarded our world so many years beyond, but people are really wanting to connect. And words like, transparency, authenticity, vulnerability, the
Mm.
human side, all those things are really manifesting into social. I think about, like, we went, and actually it's kind of the way social started, Fred, if you think about it. Like, when you think about Twitter, because I know you're on Twitter, Twitter used to be a conversation between people. And then all of a sudden it became this brand kind of thing, and it totally just went the other direction, and people just hated it. It was just like auto posts and customer service, this and all these direct messages, auto DMs, all these things that we couldn't stand. And everybody just kind of flocked away from it. And every social site has gone through that. And then what they end up trying to circle back to is to get back to that human experience. Same things happen with LinkedIn. LinkedIn started as a human to human experience. Then along came the spammers and the bots and all that, and people freaked out. And it's the pendulum has tried to swing back to getting people to connect more individually. So it's really important to be who you are, to be authentic, to be yourself. Then, to your point, to amplify the content, it's important to spend money. I mean, the bottom line is, especially on Facebook and Instagram, businesses cannot market their business without a budget. So let me just be completely clear on that. Gone are the days that businesses can actively market their brands without spending money. So where to spend that money is typically the posts that are already doing well organically. And those posts tend to be the more authentic, humanized posts. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, very much does. So, how do we leverage organic social media? Is there any kind of tips or tricks or things that we should stay away from when we're doing this?
Yeah, so when we work with brands, we typically, or businesses or people, we typically, first of all, talk about having a content calendar. So a lot of people out there, what their social are one trick ponies. So they'll just do one thing. And people get tired of that. It's just kind of the
Mhm.
same old, whether it be marketing their services, well, whether it be if they're a travel organization, it's just travel photos, things of that nature. So we recommend having, different buckets to tell your overall digital story. One might be testimonials, one might be spotlight on clients, one might be videos, that kind of thing. So mixing up the content is one. The other thing is using the features that the platform is pushing most. So, for example, in Instagram, the platform that they're pushing most is Reels. Why are they pushing Reels so much? Because of TikTok. So these shortened, condensed videos. So again, when we have clients saying, how do I get more engagement? We tell them, hey, use the features within the platforms that they want to push most. So tomorrow, Fred, if you go and you just post a picture on Instagram, and then 3 hours later you do a quick 50-second reel on teasing the next couple podcasts that you have going up, I would wager a guess that your reel will do better than the picture, because that's what Instagram is pushing the most. I always tell people, don't be a jack of all social media sites, master of none, meaning that don't go and try to be everywhere. TikTok, Snapchat, Google Plus, God rest its soul, so on and so forth. But instead, focus on a few and do them really well. But once you focus on a few of those platforms, double down on their features. Don't just do images on Instagram. Don't just do Facebook posts, but do LinkedIn or Facebook Live. Do Instagram Reels. Use stories, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about human connections and how we want to have human connections. And if you're visible, vocal, and valuable, you're going to find your audience and just get out there and speak your truth. One of the things that you said reminds me of something that I read on your website. Fish where the fish are, prioritize the social sites you focus on, and eliminate the rest. So, can you dive into that a little bit more? It sounds like think about where your audience is and maybe focus on that platform. And as you were saying, the features within that platform.
Yeah, the very quick 30-second story is that, I had a client once ask me, should I be on TikTok? And I said,
Mhm.
well, who's your audience? Or their potential client? And he says, well, I sell medical supplies to the elderly population. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, you shouldn't be on TikTok. So it's really important to know your audience and who your demographic is. The average age on TikTok is young, 13 to 26 ish. So if your market's there, sure, be on TikTok. Facebook, on the other hand, as we all know, trends a bit older. LinkedIn is more the B2B. So figuring out who your audience is and where they frequent most on social is really important. That's what I mean by fish where the fish are. And then the other thing I was going to mention about content, you mentioned, like tell your truth. The other thing too is to think about what questions your audience asks most or wants to know that you are an expert in. So in my world, it's obviously, to some degree, social media, digital marketing, that's such is that. So what are some common questions I get all the time? What platforms? So a lot of the questions you're asking, what platform should I be on? How often should I post to social is a question I get all the time. That's the type of content that if I'm thinking about ideas to post to social, that's what I should post is common questions I get from my audience. And I would suggest the same for your audience is what are 3 to 5 common questions that you or your business gets on a consistent basis? That's a great start for your upcoming content plan.
It's not about coming up with some ideas that are like a hack. It's these common sense things. It makes so much sense to look inward and then you'll find the things that you should be speaking about, right?
That's absolutely correct. And that's the great news for
Mm.
people who are worried about this taking lots of time is that oftentimes it's already in here and you just have to get it out and try to help others. I mean, the question I'm asked mostly around content is, what should I post? And I always try to help people to use this as a compass. Is it useful? Is it valuable? If the answer is yes to both of those, then it's likely a good post to do. If it's self-serving, that's okay every once in a while because, hey, we're all in this for-profit reasons mostly, but not all the time because nobody's going to want to see that, right? Or maybe you wrap it in to a piece of valuable content. But there's one thing you take away from this, if nothing else, is to be a resource, to be useful, to be human, as we've talked about already, to be authentic, provide value to people. The more value you provide, all this stuff becomes a lot easier to accomplish.
Yeah, I heard a 80-20 rule where you want to put out 80% helpful resources and 20% promotional. And that way you could be identified as a resource, as you said. But if you're 100% just putting out these promotional things, you might be looked at as just spamming people with
As a
your
sleazy
same
car
promotion.
salesman,
Yeah,
you're a sleazy car salesman.
exactly. It's the same thing that eventually people look at and they just ignore. So, and
Yes.
you don't want to be in that situation.
No.
So, let me get to your current book, and then I really want to hear more about your new book coming up. So, your one book, which is Social Media Overload: Simple Social Media Strategies for Overwhelmed and Time Deprived Businesses. Could you explain this a little bit more? Because I know you also do talks on the subject and obviously you're still promoting the book. I'd love to hear some more about it.
Yeah, I tried to write that book. My first book that I wrote back in 2009, I did a terrible job of making it evergreen. So do not buy that book called eBoot Camp. As much as I loved it at the time, as I mentioned earlier, the internet's like dog ears. And so it's very, very dated. But this book I wrote 5 or 6, 7 years ago, but I tried to make it evergreen. What I mean by that is simply that the concepts in the book didn't matter if the profiles change or the links change, that a lot of the concepts in the book remains the same. And a couple of those are, we've already mentioned fish where the fish are, but prioritizing platforms is one. Being a resource, I've talked about that a little bit. Creating a content calendar is one that I dive into quite a bit in there. Mixing up the content, again, with video and articles and things of that nature. I go into pretty good detail there as well. I'm a big LinkedIn fan. So there's a lot of LinkedIn best practices in there as
Mm,
well. One thing I'll give your audience real quick, if it's cool with you, Fred, is something I've really discovered recently about LinkedIn. So it's kind of something very, very new, and something I think if LinkedIn is indeed a platform that your audience is interested in, that they value conversations more than any other platform. And so what we found, and I've talked to some folks at LinkedIn, they've found these same types of results, is that text-based posts tend to encourage conversations more than video posts. So
mm.
that's a little counterintuitive to what I say a lot with the other platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Always like video, video, video. It's so important. You can get your passion and your enthusiasm through it. But on LinkedIn, it's kind of a little bit reverse. It doesn't mean that video is not great, but it needs to have content, like written content, at least with some context around the video. And I think your listeners will find that they will move up the algorithm ladder a lot more if they prioritize written content, even over video, which again, I wouldn't normally say. But think about it this way: when people comment on your LinkedIn post, they don't comment by video, they comment by text. And so it naturally makes sense for us to write some of that content on LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn, which is Corey Perlman, you can put it in the show notes, Fred, you can see that I've kind of changed my strategy a little bit to include a little bit more long form content type of posts. I encourage conversation. I write back, I respond. And when that happens, the LinkedIn algorithms pick up my post more and show it to more people. So I hope that's helpful for some of you who like LinkedIn as a strategy.
Yeah, that's a great tip, and definitely making sure that when you have something such as that, that you do have a dialogue. If somebody comments, that's an opportunity. Get in there, start a conversation, have that back and forth, show some engagement.
And not only that, but to reverse it and to go and engage with other people's posts. So another tip that is actually in social media overload is what I call "Be Down with OPP" for you 90s fans out there. You remember that song. And what I mean by that is other people's posts. So dedicating some time during the day to do nothing else but go out and engage with other people's content, like, comment, share on material that you actually enjoyed reading or watching. And that not only helps their algorithm juice on their posts, but what I've also learned is that tells LinkedIn that you are somebody that is engaging in conversation, and that tunes them into your post more. So it actually means that when you engage with other people's content more, that LinkedIn will pay more attention to your content as well, which has proved true with our clients as well. Pretty cool.
Excellent. Naughty by nature, not because I hate you. Something like that. I
Yes,
remember that
you
song.
remember it well. Yes.
So we talked a little bit about your new book coming out. Do you mind diving just a tad bit more, just a little bit of a teaser of what those topics might be?
Yeah, hold me to it, Fred, man. It's been, I likened it, I have two children and I have two books so far, and I don't think I'm going to have another child. And man, some people
You never
might say I
know.
was, you never know, but I'm
Consult
not.
your publisher.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
But
what that means.
the third book's been challenging, but I really wanted to make sure that I wrote something that I think was needed to be written. And so, that word authentic has just come into play in so many different parts of my life. And through, it's kind of been the thread that has connected all of my clients, all of our speaking gigs, and all that is, how can I bring more authenticity to my digital marketing? And so that's what the book's about: case studies, stories. I'll give you one just as an example. It's kind
Sure.
of, we have little mantras in there, and one of them is talk more about your baristas, less about your coffee.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is when I would go to the local coffee shop here, I love coffee, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a commoditized industry, right? Starbucks, all these other ones, but I like all kinds of different coffee. It's not about that. It's about the people. And so I love the people in the store. I love that they know my name. I love that I know their name. I love that they're part of the community. I love that they are connected to social responsibility or being organic, sustainability, things of that nature. That's what I love about my local coffee shop. And we should take that and run with it on social as well, right? It's not about our products, it's about the people behind our products. So that's why I say talk more about your baristas, less about your coffee, and you'll see lots more mantras in the book.
I love that. That's great. Well, Corey, we're getting close to the end of the show here, and I have two final questions for you. First, where can people discover more about you? What are some of the links they should go to? Obviously, we'll provide all those in the show notes.
Cool. Instagram is, I should have them all the same handle, but I don't. And part of that is because there's a couple other Corey Perlmans out in the world. But Instagram is at Corey Perlman Speaks. And LinkedIn is Corey Perlman, spelled with the E and without the A on the last name. And our website is impactsocialmedia.com. But I would say the best places would be social. I'd love to connect with anyone who watches or listens to this and build a relationship with you. And if you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to let me know. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, Twitter. You will not find me on TikTok. Just a little too old for that.
Understood. And Corey, my final question for you is if you could provide some words of wisdom for the audience.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things that's really where you are in the life, not only like big picture, but just like, so a couple things I've seen recently that I've said in the past or heard in the past and it's come up, but don't let the music die inside of you, which I'm probably botching that quote, but basically there's expertise, there's art, there's wisdom that's inside of you, and you got to figure out the right medium or tool to get that out. So Fred provides a great platform for people to be able to do that. One example of that for me has just been, I've been having such a hard time writing the book that I've started a new podcast called Authentically Social with my wife, specifically to pull the content out of me because I was having such a hard time writing. So just there's so many different ways to get the content out of you that we have no excuse to bottle it up inside. And so I would definitely encourage your listeners to find a way to not keep the music inside of you. And the only other thing that I always tell people is be lazy and incompetent. And what I mean by that is, and Fred, you can attest to this a little bit because we've known each other a long time, but I found that my laziness became a superpower because I found people around me to support me and I fired myself on a lot of things. So I only focus on a few things. So the ability to be able to get other people to help you do stuff has been really helpful for me. And then incompetent is putting smart people around you. So like in the world of social media, all of my team knows social media better than I do. And I found that to be a strength, that I learn from them and they are true artists in what they do. And so that's been super helpful. So lazy and incompetent. There you go.
I love it. Good way to bring it back around. Hey, Corey, thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a real fun experience catching up with you and talking all about this. So, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
It's truly my pleasure. You make it easy, and I'll come back if you'll have me anytime.
Oh, thank you, sir.